move. Christian Whiton is a former State Department senior advisor. He worked extensively on North Korean issues under President George W. Bush. He's now a principal with D.C. International Advisory. Christian, good to see you. Before we get to their next move, a couple of subjects I want to hit. It appears the U.S. will once again go to the Security Council for censure, maybe more sanctions. Well, look, you know better than anybody, the previous sanctions have done nothing. They're ignored with impunity by North Korea. How's it going to be any different this time?
Yeah, Greg, I don't think it will be different at all, mainly because China doesn't do anything really to enforce these sanctions. It's the one government that's in a position to turn the screws on North Korea. It's really North Korea's only trading partner. It provides North Korea with a lot of aid, fuel, oil, other support. But after 3 rounds of UN Security Council resolutions, the first 2 in 2006 after North Korea had ballistic missile tests in its first nuclear test, then again in 2009 after North Korea's second nuclear shot, what looked like strong sanctions were passed. They just weren't enforced. And not only is China not complying, we really don't hold China to account for not complying.
Well, only weeks ago, the Obama administration agreed to give food aid to North Korea in return for that country's pledge to, among other things, stop all long-range missile tests. For some reason, the United States did not get it in writing. And immediately, of course, Pyongyang violated the agreement. Senator John Kyle said the administration was naive. Do you think he's right? Did the president get suckered here?
Yep, I think the administration was naive, like its predecessor. You know, the Kim family is in competition with Yasser Arafat for selling the same thing over and over again and never delivering. You know, once again, you have food aid being offered to come back to talks. North Korea, actually, that doesn't ever make it to people in need in North Korea. It gets food assistance gets diverted to the regime elite, and it can be sold on the black market. So it's another way of really giving cash, giving support to the regime. It just pockets it and never delivers the goods.
All right. Satellite images on the opposite side of the country appear to show efforts at tunneling to create a space for an underground nuclear device to be tested. And it could happen sometime soon, only this time it may be a uranium bomb instead of plutonium. Will they do it in your judgment, and what then?
It's impossible to know for certain, but yes, it looks pretty likely. The way this usually comes out is that South Korean intelligence starts leaking information to the South Korean press. That has happened. It looks like preparations are underway. You know, the uranium bomb is a little bit scary of a prospect because it's a simpler design of the plutonium bombs that North Korea has tested before with mixed results. Our first bomb was a uranium one, at least the first one we dropped in combat. So, you know, we likely have an evolution of North Korea's nuclear program. So, you know, we step back and look at this, and it looks like a failure by North Korea today with its rocket. But actually what we're seeing is more of a power move by the regime.
Well, and they, you know, look, engineers always learn from the failures in terms of telemetry and so forth. So it advances their program. And which gets me to my next question. Given that, should President Obama consider changing course and restoring investments in missile defenses, as many members of Congress have urged him to do?
I think that's right. You know, the one takeaway from this, and particularly from our ally Japan, is that it cannot count on the U.S. to be a tough negotiator with North Korea. What it can count on is its own missile defense capabilities. So I think you'll see a lot of governments around the world, and of course this applies to Iran and the situation there as well, that we need to invest in missile defense. But also we should look at perturbing the North Korean regime. Doesn't mean we need to go to war, doesn't mean we need to act too belligerently, but we should certainly cut back on assistance and help dissidents and defectors who want to change this government peacefully by broadcasting information into North Korea, helping refugees, things like that.
Bottom line, North Korea, you know, has a long history of playing, you know, diplomatic ping pong with the West. They've lied, they've cheated on previous agreements, did it again yesterday. Do you think in the end deterrence and containment are the only way to deal with North Korea?
We should contain them, but you need to go farther. Unfortunately, there's a cost to doing basically nothing with North Korea because North Korea proliferates almost every weapon system it has or it has developed. You know, in 2007, one reason the last round of talks fell apart was because caught North Korea helping the Syrians build a carbon copy of the North Korean nuclear reactor. They were building it in Syria. There were North Koreans on the site. Thankfully, the Israelis blew it up. So there's a real cost just to treading water here. So we should be looking for ways to perturb this regime and ultimately help the North Korean people people free themselves. That's how you get ultimate security in Northeast Asia.
Christian Whiton, an expert on the subject of North Korea, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Greg. Great to be here.